Hi, everybody. I'm Candid Stanisci, and you're watching. We'll call it football talk because we're still talking about football. We can still talk about the CFL, but let's be honest. Some pretty big games are happening down south, and two more happen this week. So, welcome to the Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. While you download the app, make sure you rate, leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. Zingo TV is available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and also now Smart TVs 2016 forward. Now, joining me on the show, Football Talk, the man that knows football inside out, or outside in, or top to bottom, floor to ceiling. Have I made enough descriptors there, David?
I don't know if you caught. I don't know if you got them all.
I know I'm missing a couple, maybe a couple of hundred.
Potentially, yeah.
A few. Well, why don't we start with the Canadian Football League?
Okay, let's get them. Let's get that out of the way.
All right, and I assume we're both on the same page on what topic is probably pretty important.
I think I know. I think I know where you want to go with this. I think I know the direction you're trying to steer us.
Well, it has a lot to do with the NFL, and it's a subject matter that we've discussed throughout the season. Where we talk all the time. It seems people talk all the time, and people who want to speak positively about the CFL or negatively speak about the same thing, which is the level of talent is not the same. The NFL is far superior to the Canadian Football League. They have far more talent. Well, we found out this weekend maybe it's not true because the NFL suffers from the same disease the CFL suffers from. If you lose your number one quarterback in a game, there's a good chance your team's not going to be successful. And so we see a team called the Hamilton Tiger Cats in the Canadian Football League on the same weekend. We hear how much they're paying the quarterback that they brought in from Calgary, Bo Levi Mitchell, a former MVP, Grey Cup champion, 1.6 and change a year with signing bonuses to boot. There are a lot of things we can say about this. We can spend about a half hour talking about this, the pros and the cons to doing what the Hamilton Tiger Cats did. And I'll let you start.
Well, first and foremost, they're getting name recognition at the position, right? After seemingly deciding that Dane Evans wasn't the guy to move them forward, they're like, okay, if we're going to go get a guy, we're going to go and get arguably the best one available on the free market. And they did, and they went ahead and they did it by trading draft picks and doing what some teams have started to do lately, which is if you want someone that bad, go and get him early because he's likely not going to be. You want to get a head start on everything.
You want to guarantee it. They made a move. They traded for his rights.
Guarantees you're going to get.
Yeah, so they obviously they had a commitment to him to begin with. They don't give up the assets they did to get the rights to speak to him.
Yeah. Yeah, and so the important thing here on top of that is, they're getting someone that is, in a way, they're hoping is going to not only bounce back, but kind of be re-energized in a new situation, kind of banking on him to be a little bit slighted by how his time in Calgary ended and leaving that sour taste. We've seen this before. We've seen where a player is kind of tossed to the side, kind of forgotten a little bit. He comes with a new team, and it usually seems to work a little bit. I think what they see, what Hamilton sees here is the path in the East is clear. You get yourself in, and you've got a really good chance. They also know that they're hosting the game. They're hosting the Grey Cup.
They're all in.
They're all in. This is like this is not a young team. They're a now team. They're not waiting for the future, right? So what they did makes a lot of sense, except they got two issues. One, they didn't really get a discount on Levi Mitchell.
I think he's the highest paid quarterback now.
Well, I think actually he might
600?
be.
You think because it's going to take at least 600 to be higher paid.
I think he's just over 500,000. I don't know what Zach Collaros'
Well,
contract is.
well, if football, if three down nations right or whatever you want to call it, if they're right, 1.6 plus change is 530, 535, something like that a year. Then
1.8.
there was $175,000 signing bonus.
500,000 base salary is guaranteed in the final year of the contract. So let's say it's around 550 to 6. Who would
Yeah,
you rather have? This is where I'm playing it.
the other guy,
Zach Collaros,
the other guy. I don't care who you mention. I'd rather have the other guy.
right? And the thing with Bo Levi Mitchell is he hasn't been the reason why he lost his job wasn't just because the other guy was better. Well, that was the main reason, but also he's been injured. He hasn't been remember the best. We just went through this we're talking. We're going to get into it more with the NFL games, but your best ability as a quarterback is your availability.
As a player, not just a quarterback, but to your point, you're right.
A player who's being paid what Bo Levi Mitchell is being paid. The issue now is they got to make sure they have a backup. In the CFL now, the backup position is not something you can just, plug in any guy. You have to have somebody that you're comfortable with that can come in moments notice and can perform. That's been true the last few years, and it's going to be true. I think a lot of CFL teams are catching on to this idea now. And so what Hamilton has to do now is first off, they got to get rid of Dane Evans. Like they can't say that they're getting rid of him. They can probably say we're going to explore our options, but it's a foregone conclusion that Dane Evans is
They
gone.
can't have them both. That's for
No,
sure. Be
no,
half
not
their
if you
cap.
want to actually build a team around Bo Levi Mitchell, right? And that's
Yeah,
the thing here. Now that what Hamilton's also banking on, and they've kind of alluded to this, they're banking on other players being willing to take less money to come play in Hamilton, right?
um,
Recruiting and playing with Bo Levi.
yeah. You're gonna have to hope there's players out there who are willing to take less and be on a team with a guy who took the most he could.
Yeah, I
That
don't.
to me doesn't it is at the root of the problem of why Bo Levi Mitchell has had problems with the organization he came from. If you remember, I remember this, and I could be could be my imagination, but I seem to recall in my mind's eye, he was asked to take a pay cut, and he refused
I
in
He
Calgary.
may have been. You know,
So obviously he wasn't going to take a pay cut. But what that tells me is he had less interest in winning a Grey Cup, more interest in getting his paycheck. Because if I'm Bo Levi Mitchell and my aim is to bring a Grey Cup to Hamilton, he has handcuffed him by virtue of the salary that he's asking for. The same cuffs that other quarterbacks in Canadian Football League history, and recent especially, for example, a great quarterback went from Edmonton to BC, didn't have a really good offensive line, but the team didn't really have the money to be able to afford the offensive line for the great quarterback that Mike Riley was. And what happened? So that's my first point. My second point is I knew all along he was going to Hamilton. Told you he was going to Hamilton. And I told you my belief is that Hamilton's the right place for a guy like him. I'm just not happy with the price. The price is where sorry, Hamilton fans, I just don't think. And Bo Levi Mitchell, you're a lovely guy. You're a great quarterback. But if you want to win a Grey Cup, you need a team. Zach Collaros is a far better quarterback. And I guess he might be making about the same money now or might not. I'm not
so
really
I
sure.
have numbers here.
Oh,
So
good. So,
in
how much does
20,
Caleros make?
so funny enough, in 2020, Bo Levi Mitchell did restructure his contract, and he was making $525,000 in the final 2 years of his deal.
Yeah, he switched bonuses. He took bonuses and took away salary.
Yeah, right. And so, yeah, he gets $100,000 signing bonus for a $40,000 pay cut. I think that's usually when you
Something like that.
restructure a contract, you take some of that money, put into bonus, so that the salary what it costs on the actual cap is a little less. So Zach Calero signed a 3-year deal at $1.6 million, which is what reported. 3Down Nation reported that Levi Mitchell signed a 3-year deal worth up to 1.62 million. Now you might say, "Oh, 1.62 is pretty close to 1.6." In the CFL, that extra point 2, the
That's
200,000,
200 grand.
that's a couple of players, a couple of significant players in certain positions. I think Andrew Harris's salary was around 120 to 150 in that range. Andrew Harris is a pretty good. That's like a premium at his position. Um, you know that's where I'm struggling with this. He didn't take a discount based. He might think he took a discount based
He
on what.
didn't take a discount, and even he can't con himself into
No,
thinking he took
I
a
don't
discount.
think maybe
You don't go to be the highest paid quarterback in the Canadian Football League and refer to yourself as a discounted player. Come on,
yeah.
let's be real here. Bo Levi Mitchell's a great player. Here's I'm going to add this too. Evans is a better quarterback than Bo Levi Mitchell if you consider the last few games of the season. Evans didn't play bad football at the end of last season.
He
He
got
was a pretty good quarterback at the end of the season, except for the injury that happened at the end.
yeah, like I don't think people really truly understand. Hamilton was in a bad spot. Dane Evans wasn't playing well. He comes back and he put that team on his help put that team on his back to get them into the playoffs. He
With Schiltz's help. Schiltz wasn't necessarily the boat, but
Mhm.
he was the rudder. He's the guy that is going to save Hamilton with Bo Levi Mitchell. Mark my words, I say it today, and I'll stand behind it, right or wrong, down the road. Hamilton fans are going to be totally happy, and management better hang on to that guy because I think he's the key to any success they're going to have. That doesn't mean he's the quarterback when they win the Grey Cup. It doesn't mean he's the quarterback for the whole game, but I'm telling you, this guy's going to come in handy for them. I like this guy. He's proven himself. He's looking for an opportunity, and this could be an opportunity for him because Bo Levi Mitchell, towards the end of his stay with the Calgary Stampeders, a lot of why he didn't play had to do with injuries.
So I'm going to bring up two things here. One, Matthew Schultz is a pending free agent,
They
and
better try and hang on to him.
he knows if he signs with Hamilton, he's the clear cut backup, and he's not going to play unless there's an injury.
And there's the discount that they got to get now. They didn't get it with Bo Levi. They better get it with Schultz, and he might be trading it, making the conscious thought that Bo Levi's not always really healthy. He's had, there's a good chance I'll get first team reps.
Now, here's the thing with Matthew Schultz. You think he's a pretty decent quarterback.
I do.
I think he's a pretty decent, 1A, 1B option if you need another guy to come in.
Definitely a good backup. Definitely a good backup. Maybe not the long haul.
So the BC Lions don't have a backup because Vernon Adams now gets pushed up into the starter job. The Montrealettes do not right now.
They know Schultz.
They know Schultz. The Toronto Argonauts, if
what's going on with their starting quarterback, goodness knows.
If McLeod Thompson doesn't come back, Ryan Dinwiddie did say they want a veteran to push Chad Kelly to earn that starting job. The Saskatchewan Roughriders do not have a quarterback currently. I think Calgary
earmarked by Evans. Evans is an earmark there. There's a lot of talk that he could end up there.
You don't think the Ottawa Redblacks would consider getting?
Mazzoli's there. He's signed. He's there. He's their starter.
Right, like if that's a team that desperately needs a backup quarterback or a backup option. Every team in the CFL is going
to. They all need backups. They all need a second quarterback.
And that's why I think Hamilton. Look, you got your guy, your main guy, but you better be damn.
You're painting a picture now. You're scaring me to. If I'm a Hamilton fan, I'm sweating bullets now because what you're telling me is, because of how much this is just a conclusion that I'm going to make. They're paying so much to Bo Levi Mitchell, they won't be able to afford to keep Schultz.
If another team just tells Schultz, We'll give you the opportunity, and we'll pay you a little bit more.
Egad. Oh, that's got to hurt. Oh, that's got to hurt. Heather, I'm sorry to hear it.
And look at this, like on top of with, I mean, even Edmonton. I didn't even think of Edmonton as another team that would look at it.
They've
Like,
got a solid number one.
yeah, I think the only team that won't do it is Winnipeg, because Winnipeg knows that they don't need a backup that badly because they feel okay with what they have there. They're usually pretty. They the backup.
Their backup quarterback's the offensive line.
Yeah, pretty much. Right. And I think they might have probably have already. I'm just checking their free agency. Or Prukop is a free agent, but I don't even know if he'll go back. They might go with.
There's a few quarterbacks that we don't know which one of them will spin some magic this year, given the right opportunity. We've seen in history that some quarterbacks have made some magic. But your point. I think you've made your point, and your point is simple. There are a lot of number two quarterbacks necessary, and there are a few quarterbacks that could fit that.
Yeah.
Fit that description. The only hanging participle is the fact that the unknown is how healthy will Bo Levi Mitchell be in training camp.
Yep.
In the beginning of the season.
He says this year he's not thinking about rehab. He's thinking about training.
Well, that's good,
right? That's something you want to hear if you're Hamilton Tiger Cat fan. You want to hear that he's fine. He's not.
That's all conjecture. That's just talk at this point. History is what history is. Bo Levi Mitchell's. I guess here's the one thing that the Ticats can't give Bo Levi Mitchell. They can't give it to him. They can't give it to him as hard as they try. The hunger to win a Grey Cup. He's done that.
Yeah. He's done it.
They can't give him that.
The only thing they can give him is everybody thinks we made a mistake bringing you on. Everybody's already discounting us. That's something that they can maybe potentially use as bullet board material is what I like.
Well, I think. Well, anyway, listen. I hope I should. I apologize if I'm sounding too hard on Bo Levi about the money that he took, but I'm looking at it from a Ticat fan's perspective, and I'm looking at it from a Ticat fan's perspective that wants to win, right? Not just because of a contract, but because of the reality of the team. Let's remember the fabrication of the successful Hamilton Tiger Cat team that won all those divisions, went to those Grey Cups, was made up because a kid named Manziel, Howie Mandel. Manziel went to Montreal, and they got a boatload of draft picks and players and offensive line, all kinds of things. They got quality players for Manziel. They gave up a little bit, and now the problem they're going to have is they don't have the luxury like they did then of having the kind of money over and above quarterbacks to spend elsewhere. Now it's a different dynamic. The GM in Hamilton now is going to have his hands full. The president, vice president, whatever they're calling the head coach as well. They're all gonna have to figure out a way and achieve the goal that you set out for them, David, because you're 100% right. For them to win, they're going to have to hope there's going to be players that are going, well, I want to win a Grey Cup. Bo Levi Mitchell's gone there. Hamilton's been a pretty good threat. They're playing in. I'm agreeing with you and reviewing what you said. And for the people who've just joined us, there's a chance that we could win because of the division we're in the Eastern Division. There's a good chance there's a pathway to the Grey Cup that isn't as brutal as it is in the Western Division. You've got a team that was there 2 years in a row, had a bit of a problem because of quarterback, and now you got a quarterback, so that problem should be erased, hopefully. And they've got a lot of hungry players on that team that have been so close. I'm thinking of a middle linebacker in particular, who Simone Lawrence, he ain't got many seasons left to win a Grey Cup. This could be it for him. So there's going to be a lot of hunger. So they're going to have it. The question is, will that hunger be satiated by players who can actually turn that hunger into wins, because that's the key thing here. You can have a lot of guys on your team that want to win, but they got to be able to do it. They got to be able to do what needs to be done when the time comes, and that is the beginning of the season, get into a playoff position, win the last 3 games of the season, or 2, depending on if you finish first.
Well, that's the thing, right? I think they understand not winning the division hurt, not having the whole. Well, they did have. I'm trying to remember now. Did they have home
Field
field?
advantage. Who, Hamilton?
No, they didn't. Sorry,
No, 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 no. Yes.
Montreal had home
No,
field.
no, Montreal had home. Montreal had home.
That hurt them
Montreal one
too,
came to Toronto from Montreal.
right? Not having the home field advantage in the
Another handicap.
that's
Tough, tough.
another. Um,
Football's tough. A lot of guys got to travel. Place you're going to practice. You're getting away from your normal, your normal routine. And we talk about in football, we're told all the time that routine is the maximum, most important thing that you need to maintain as a football player.
Yeah, exactly. Well, not just that. You want to maintain your advantage with the fans. Having the fans
Wow.
in your
We saw
corner.
that this weekend, and now this would be a great transition. The home teams won first. Secondly, Burrow was playing in Burrowhead. At least that's what they thought, he was playing in Burrowhead. But unfortunately, the people in Burrowhead didn't agree, and they made it hard for him to do his thing.
Yeah, well, not just that. Well, I mean, because he went into Buffalo, which is a pretty hostile crowd. But what was the difference? In my opinion, when you look at the Bengals game and the KC game, I don't want to hear about the refs personally. I don't like when people. It just feels like a cop out to me. Um, what the Bengals had issues with was very similar to what the Bills had issues with, which was against the Chiefs. You don't want to give Patrick Mahomes
Time.
ample chances to win, to put the team on his back and win. The Bengals did not have the running game.
No.
Not only did they not have the running game, but they couldn't do the one thing that cost them the Super Bowl last year. They couldn't protect Joe Burrow.
No, they couldn't.
I think 4 sacks in that first half. If they had protected Joe Burrow even half the time, he could have at least. They were behind the 8 ball in that first quarter. They went into half down. They made a game out of it. I'll give them a lot of credit. They did push back, but at the end of the day, the Kansas City Chiefs had the ball more. They had fewer mistakes. I know that. 2 interceptions thrown by Joe Burrow. They put a little bit too much on him because he didn't have the protection, and because last week the Bills couldn't touch him.
Well, can you please add in your dissertation the fact that they started slowly, which is something that they normally don't do, and they did it against Kansas City, kept them quiet for a while at the beginning of the game, almost for the whole first half.
Yep.
And in Buffalo, we saw what happened with the first drive.
Look, they allowed 1 sack against the Bills. Now the Bills were missing a couple key players there. I get it, but they were up 14-0. The crowd was taken out of it in that
9-0 in first downs over Buffalo.
Yeah. They at the end of the game, it was 30 first downs to 19 first downs. Time of possession, 33 minutes versus 26 minutes. The other big one against Buffalo, they took 2 penalties for 9 yards. Buffalo had 8 penalties for 60 yards. Against the Chiefs, the Bengals had 9 penalties for 71 yards. The Chiefs had 4 for 55.
Boy, when you have a teammate running off the field complaining about a penalty you took, those penalties hurt.
Yeah, I didn't like that because that penalty, yes, while that penalty put them in field goal position.
You don't like the call, or
the call was right. The call was right.
Oh, okay.
There was no problem. I didn't have an issue with the call.
I didn't have any problem with any of the calls.
I don't have
once they were clarified, like the one where the clock got stopped and then they stopped the play. It was just there. It was so noisy. The sideline ref or judge or whatever you want to call him was waving the game to stop, and they just didn't hear him. But he was on the field doing it.
Yeah, I personally didn't have as many issues with the way the game was officiated. It's never going to be perfect. People are human. It's going to happen. My issue the with the way that it was handled was, first off, that player shouldn't be doing that in the open forum like that. Do it in the locker room. Do it when there's aren't cameras
Yeah,
pointing at your face.
that's some bitterness there,
Like
boy.
look at the guy who had the penalty. His
Oh,
reaction when he was going to the locker room, completely devastated.
yeah, he dropped the bar over his eyes because he didn't want people to see how sad he was about the experience. And football players are
Very.
big men and but they are human, and they work so hard, they work so hard not only for the season but for their lives in the hopes that one season, one day they'll be in the position where they'll get to the Super Bowl, and I feel sad for him, but he made a real terrible mistake. The only thing I'll do is say that possibly his momentum was the issue, not his intent. Do you know what I mean?
Yep. I know
You
exactly
know?
what you mean.
But he had to figure out a way how to hold up. He had to figure out a way how to do that. The quarterback's going out of bounds. I know Mahomes is a pretty tricky guy, but I think he's pretty committed to going out of bounds and that should have triggered something in the defender's head to make him stop. Um, you
Mahomes
know,
knew exactly what he was doing, where he was going.
he gave it a little bit of a soccer ouchie
Yeah,
when he went down. He gave it a little soccer ouchie there, I think.
he made sure the referees knew that he got run out of bounds. It's a smart thing to do. I know a lot of people
I don't like it.
don't like it,
I don't like it.
but when you're a quarterback and you're that's what you're taught to do, right? Because we've
Yeah, no, I
seen.
get it. I get it. I just don't like it. That's all.
I know
I
it's
don't think
like,
there would have been a problem with it being called. Yeah, I don't think it was necessary.
no, it wasn't necessary. It's not how I like to see a game end. That's
Well, here in North America, we look at sports and athletes a little differently. In Europe, it's about getting the call is the priority, not the men is men. I know it sounds sexist. I'm sorry, but I just didn't like it. For me, as far as I'm concerned, Mahomes did something um, that not many quarterbacks do, and not many athletes do. What I would consider a critical injury to an ankle, severely taped up. He had no lateral motion or very little lateral motion. In fact, the one time he had to rely on lateral motion and he stepped on his right leg and boy, that hurt. He just didn't have that. He worked with what he had and his offensive line, we talk about football, all the time that, it's the trenches where you win the game. And KC proved they wanted to protect their quarterback a lot better than than the Bengals did.
Yeah. Essentially, that's where that game ended. There
Yeah,
was
that's where I thought it ended too. I agree with you.
Mahomes also put himself in positions to know I can't hope that my line's going to protect me in a way, right? It's funny because what you think Joe Burrow would have kind of understood that a little bit more, but he needs to also get receivers to get open for him, and it wasn't really happening in the way that the Bengals had hoped for. So I think that there's, as much as I thought the Bengals were going to make it just because Mahomes, I thought the injury was going to impair him. I thought the Bengals had better weapons, but at the end of the day, it's whoever can keep their quarterback upright more and make the fewer mistakes is the one that's going to win. And now, so that's why I wasn't surprised to see how that game obviously ended up.
And also the lead that they didn't get, the lead that Cincinnati didn't get,
Mhm.
put them outside of their comfort zone. I think too, David. They weren't in their comfort zone. They like playing while they're ahead. Burrow, Burrow was buried. I don't know if he was injured in the game, if he took any licks that hurt, but I got to tell you, I can't imagine how uplifting to Mahomes and the guys on the sidelines every time Burrow got sacked. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just the defense did a masterful job of propping up Mahomes and the offense. As far as I'm concerned, with Kansas City, not to take anything away from Mahomes and the offense, but the defense of the Kansas City Chiefs did something not many people thought could happen, and that is to turn Burrow into a ordinary quarterback, because that's what he looked like. He looked like an ordinary quarterback, especially when he kept dusting himself off and picking himself up off the ground.
Yeah. And you think that if you don't sack him, if you can knock him down a few times, every time you knock him down, all right, let's see if this makes him slow him down a little bit. That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to slow him down enough that you can, stay, try to make things hard for him, but it just wasn't happening.
But to me, if this was a hockey game, the three stars would have been Mahomes, the defensive line, and the fans. I'm going to give Kansas City fans a lot of credit. I mean, when Burrows is doing this, because I can't hear, that is, well, I come from the fan world to this reporting. I went from reporting to being a fan to being reporting. And I love the idea that as a fan, you can make an impact on the game. Kansas City Chief fans should be very proud of their contribution to that game. They're not going to win it with just the fans, but the fans can make a tiny contribution that can be a real good gift to the team. And home field advantage in football, we talked about it at the end here with, Hamilton having to go to Montreal. Well, for every team that has to go on the road this year, Philadelphia, I'd like to talk about them as well, in the context that, David, San Francisco looked like a CFL team with no starting quarterback.
Yeah. You would think that when I watched the game against the Cowboys, what disappointed me so much about how the Cowboys played was their defense played lights out.
Absolutely.
They played lights out, but the issue was that their offense didn't do what the Eagles did, which was take advantage of the one touchdown, one more touchdown, two more touchdowns, a few field goals, not making those mistakes in those key places. Cowboys would be in this game, and I think they would have been a totally different game, in my opinion, because I think
if they had Dak, yeah, it would have been a different game. They would have had a
right
number one quarterback to
they would have
start.
had a number one and a backup quarterback, not a third string and a fourth string option quarterback.
Well, watching that game was like watching the last Argo game against Hamilton. If you remember, all the time clock violations,
Mm-hmm.
there were too many. Like, you knew that quarterback was not, and he complained too about not being able to hear. But I think also some of the deafness had to do with the pressure of that he was feeling. That it wasn't just that he couldn't hear it, even though hearing it was the problem as far as he was concerned. But still, the time count violations speak to a quarterback with not enough experience. Yet this guy played for what, 14 teams, 19 teams in his career. It's his third time around San Francisco. I'm disappointed in San Francisco. I had San Francisco, and as soon as Purdy got hurt, I knew it was over. I mean, you're handing the ball to a fourth stringer, for goodness sakes.
Yeah. When I look at what really did San Francisco, and they lost the line of scrimmage battle.
Oh, they sure did.
Absolutely. That's what the Eagles thrive on. They thrived on. Everybody looks at the weapons on offense. I hate to say it, but you have a quarterback in Jalen Hurts who is coming off a shoulder injury, so he's not throwing the ball as well. So they've been.
You knew they were going to run, right? And what did they do? They succeeded in running the ball
because the offensive line knew that they needed to create those holes to give themselves the chance to win the game with the running game. And that's the safest bet because they need to play mistake-free football, because San Francisco, if they were going to win that game, they were going to need to shorten the field.
and they
Christian
needed their
McCaffrey could only
defense.
do so much. So once they neutralized, once Christian McCaffrey wasn't a factor anymore, he had that great touchdown run. But once he wasn't a factor, it doesn't matter who's playing receiver or tight end. San Francisco could not get plays off because of pressure that the quarterbacks were under. You've already got quarterbacks who are definitely not comfortable in the situation that they're in. That to me is why the Eagles deserve to be where they are, is because they knew what they needed to do to win. Now, I'm
Injuries are the same as talent. It's that availability. That's the thing. Every team gets a chance to field the same players. So I was hoping for San Francisco. I was pulling for. I picked San Francisco. So
I'm
you
never
know
gonna.
you know you know where I stand. But essentially, Philly was the best team this year. They were the best team. They continue to be the best team. And they're definitely now the best team in the NFC. And they're ready to take on the best team in the AFC, the Chiefs. So, both teams were full value. And, behind me is this board. That's Philly. And on this side, you got Kansas City. This is an old board. This is before all the games were played. And what you have is you have the two teams there. They're in the Super Bowl. They were the two number one seeds. How often do you see that, David, where the two number one seeds make it through? So it's
Uh,
hard to argue with them making it. They were destined to do it. They just uh,
I think a lot of people thought the AFC was definitely more wide open. I think for any team to beat the Eagles, they were gonna have to be at their best.
absolutely.
And that's the thing. The Eagles caught teams not at their best. It helps that they had home field. They had the bye. Um, Now the question now becomes, like, when I look, I mean, just even a quick early look at this matchup. I usually the last two games with the I mean with this and with the 49ers and Eagles, I was picking with this point of my heart and not with this.
Uh huh.
I
Same
gotta
thing
go
here.
a little more with this. Like I'm not gonna declare right now who I think is gonna win. Part of the reason is Patrick Mahomes gets an extra week to rest and rehab this ankle. I'll give
Well,
the
he has almost 2 weeks minus a day.
Yeah, I'll give the Kansas City Chiefs medical staff. He did too. He made sure that they got the credit because
Next most important to the fans.
that was a remarkable job because and nobody thought he was going to be able to take the field and do what they knew he could get onto the field, but there was a lot of skepticism that he would be able to do anything remotely Patrick Mahomes, and he did.
He added to his legend, David. What's the number one trait that everybody talks about with Mahomes? There's the one thing that no one can deny about Holmes. He alone can pick up the team and win because he's magic. He's proven in his whole career, which is short, his whole career, he has proven over and over again that he can perform some magic. And success is something that's followed him around. Let's take this into recollection, folks. He's never lost a conference final in regulation time. Never.
Wow. Yeah.
You know? So he knows how to win. Because when he loses, it's by the narrowest of margins.
Well, and that's the thing, right? If it's a close game, you're going to go with Patrick Mahomes. You give Patrick Mahomes just that little, like with that Bengals the last drive. The fact that they didn't kill as much clock, I'm just like, game is done. You give Patrick Mahomes time to win a game, he's going to win the game. That's what he's done. Look at the Bills. 13 seconds left. We'll be fine. We'll take this. We'll win. We're good. We're going to win this game. We got the last touchdown. 13 seconds. And it was like clockwork that they got that field goal.
They got a little help, but they were there anyway. It's not like they gave them the field goal. They just made it easier.
Well, they gave that little window.
Yeah, they gave it a bigger window. That's what they gave them.
You give that window for a team to come back, they're going to take advantage of that window. if you have a good core. Tom Brady was the same thing. You think you got Tom Brady beat, and then and Tom Brady, cool as a cucumber, knows exactly what he needs to, how much time is left. He's already pictured that moment a million times in his brain. And I see a lot of people saying, "Well, this is what Patrick Mahomes is turning into," and I wouldn't disagree with that.
Not at
He's
all.
a quarterback that in the toughest situations when he is dealing with what he was dealing with. I know Eduardo's not going to like this, but he's adding to his legend, and he's only just getting started.
Absolutely. And what makes Brady the GOAT? What makes him the GOAT? It's not that he made that he won a championship in the final seconds. It's that he's done it repeatedly. His greatness doesn't rely on one great moment. It's multiple moments. And we've got a young kid, what is it, 4 years now for Mahomes? It's four, right? 4 years that he's been with the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
In 4 years, Brady's been around how many years? In 4 years, Mahomes has had an amazing, consistent
Sorry,
legacy already of incredible matches and games that he has been a quarterback that has not just given a team a chance to win, but has helped his team win. And with a little bit of help, his team could have won. Like I said, only 2 times he's lost in a conference final, overtime.
I'll tell you this. So he's actually been 6 years in the NFL,
Six. Okay.
five as a starter, because
Okay.
the other year, the first year, he was a backup to Alex Smith.
Right.
You look at his career so far, and every season but one season, he's had a quarterback rating over 105. That's unbelievable. And then when you look at the road that he has had to take, it helps. I understand. It helps that the he has the playoff in the playoffs. He's been able to be at home. That makes such a difference. I get all of that, but this is why the Chiefs understand to be good in the regular season so that you can put yourself in the best position to get to where you need to go, right?
Absolutely.
And the funny thing is, Andy Reid, who was known as the guy who can never win, coach in the big game.
And with who could he not win
Yeah,
for 10 years? Who couldn't he win with for 10 years?
exactly. I'm loving the storyline that
I
he's
love that you
won
said that.
once. He's won once, and now his second potential, he's got to beat the team that let him go. Um, I also just I think what the Chiefs are going to thrive on right now is what they thrived on in this game was they were a bit they might have been favorite, but a lot of people were counting out the Chiefs, right?
Absolutely.
They had bullet board. I talked about bullet
Absolutely.
board material. They had
Burrowhead.
most bulletin board material. Look at
Absolutely.
Travis Kelsey after the game talking about the Cincinnati mayor, talking about a lot of the players heard what they were saying about. They did the first thing that they knew they needed to do was ensure that Arrowhead was going to be their advantage. Their home field was going to be their advantage. So now this is his third. This is going to be his third Super Bowl appearance. First one he won. Second one he got, I think, a humbling. Patrick Mahomes got a bit of a
Yeah.
humbling moment against Tom Brady. So if you're the Eagles, there's a recipe here to beat Patrick Mahomes because
Absolutely
Brady's
there
team
is.
did it a few years ago. And I think if you look at the Eagles, they believe that they have the ability to do that. But Patrick Mahomes, he loses a game like that, he remembers it, and he's not going to forget it. And I think he out of all quarterbacks in this league will understand what he'll have to do to win that game.
But you've got Jalen Hurts, who for the first time is part of a tandem of black quarterbacks playing in the Super Bowl. It's another interesting storyline as well. And because this is a CFL show, I'm going to say this, and I've tried to say it many different ways, but I'm going to say this, and I've said it before, and I'll repeat exactly what I'm saying. First time two black quarterbacks in the Super Bowl. That to me is hard to believe in a world that gave us Warren Moon, gave us a lot of other great quarterbacks. One of the main reasons why the Canadian Football League has had a hard time being as offensive as it was in the past is once the NFL decided, you know what, maybe black men can play quarterback. Maybe they can. And that was one of the main advantages the Canadian Football League had for decades. It's an advantage they had. We had beautiful black athletes, talented, the best football players in the world came to play in the Canadian Football League because uh, they weren't given the same kind of opportunity that other players got, and the CFL had such greatness drop on their lap, and it's what the Canadian Football League's had to recover from. And now the NFL has the best athletes in North America playing in their league because they opened their eyes, and now we're going to see two black quarterbacks for the first time, which to me is that blows my mind that it's taken this long.
Yeah, I mean, to get two of them in the same game too, that's like the significance of it. And I I think, yeah, I just think that, we're in a time right now where teams have to kind of put a bit of that thought process in the rear view, because what matters more, winning or those preconceived notions of whether a black quarterback can lead his team to victory. I think first off, Patrick Mahomes,
The best athlete is where we should leave it.
yes, you know what? It's easy to coach an athlete who, and look, these athletes are getting smarter and smarter and smarter.
And better and better and better.
Yeah,
Faster, bigger, stronger, smarter.
right.
Yeah. I'll let you have the last word. You've got a few seconds. We're almost out of time if we are not already. Go ahead. You get the last word, my friend.
It's funny because when you look at um, just this game, and you know what, it's going to come down to two of the best teams. You just mentioned it in the league. Um, I'm just hoping. I mean, the good thing is weather won't be a factor. It's an indoor stadium. I'm just curious to know which team is going to live in the moment and being able to win in the moment, right? The Eagles have done a very good job of it so far, but I'm going to say it, they have not played a team like Kansas City. San Francisco
Absolutely.
is not Kansas City. The Giants were definitely not Kansas City. I have a friend who's an Eagles fan. He thinks that with the way the Eagles defensive line is playing, there's no way that that Mahomes is going to be able to do what he did. He knows that, and you give him an extra week to prepare. I think the thing about the Chiefs, they've been there. They've been,
Absolutely.
they've been there before. They've been there multiple times. So this isn't. They're not going to be caught in the moment. I don't think. The Eagles haven't been there in a while, and this is a whole new team. A few of them remain from the last team, but a lot of them haven't been there before, and
They'll
that's
be hungry.
something that can't be discounted. But I'm sure we'll get more into it closer to the game.
I wasn't totally truthful. I'm going to say one quick thing. Mahomes is not playing with an injury that doesn't like the cold in the cold. He's going to be playing in a comfortable stadium temperature wise, which allows for it's easier when it's warmer for that ligament damage, that high ankle sprain is a lot friendlier with warm than it is cold. So I wanted to get that out there because we didn't get that in there. And I think that's a very important point, which you talked about the heat. David, thank you so much.
No problem, Frank.
Okay, he's David Morassutti. I'm Frank Stanisci. Thank you for watching Football Talk. Yes, it's in the CFL Talk slot. Airing live Mondays at 9 p.m. This show can also be heard on the Spanglish World Radio Network for CFL Talk, news, entertainment, and other sports programming we offer. Please check out spanglishworld.ca. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Thanks for watching, everybody.